Well folks, you may be wondering what on earth is all that about. Well, I'll tell you what that is all about. Long story short, about 5 months ago we did a battle damage comparison between Nechronomancer and Legion Revenant, and it's fair to say Nechronomancer came out on top. If you've not yet seen that video, I will ping a link to it so it can pop up on screen for you sometime around now. But this is the kind of stats we were coming out with, and we did it for high HP, low HP, and for soloing a generic boss. And that is what we're going to do today, except this time we'll be using Nechronomancer and ArchMage. Since Nechronomancer won the last round, it kind of makes sense to go in and chuck ArchMage into the mix. Now, we are looking purely at farming and solo. We're not going into any kind of support aspects to any of these classes because we just want to keep it nice and concise, purely down to the kind of damage output you can expect to be getting. There are no funky forge enhancements on. Obviously, ArchMage can go an awful lot higher, and you can do that with Nechronomancer as well. Mostly, I'm using a Lux/Wizard hybrid across my items, so ArchMage has Wizard on it, and then we have Nechronomancer currently running Luck. In my opinion, these are the two best farming classes in the game. However, the thing is with ArchMage, it is an awful lot more complicated to use than Nechronomancer, in the sense that you have the two modes to flick between. Whereas with Nechronomancer, you can use the combo we like to call El Spammo. So it is far more easier to use, and generally when you're farming, you want to be using a class you don't really have to think about trying to keep yourself alive. Now we've battled away for a minute, let's have a look at the stats and how they turned out. So Nechronomancer, we got 11 kills, and crucially on the DPS front, 6,976 per second, and then ArchMage 13 kills with 8,244 damage per second. We don't worry about the healing too much. Generally, both those classes, you'll be keeping yourself alive. The caveat to that will be of ArchMage, if you just leave yourself in Astral Ascension the whole time, then you will be wiping on the high HP mobs. So it's very important to be using your skill 5. However, like we say, when you're actually farming with something like ArchMage, it's not necessarily the kind of class you want to be using, because you don't want to be having to think about swapping up the modes. But if you're going for like short-term farming, it probably is the best option to go for, just in the sense of how much damage you're going to be doing compared to everything else, and getting those few extra kills in. In case you haven't noticed, we have moved over to the lower HP mobs, and we're doing the exact same thing, another minute of killing monsters just to see our outcomes on these two classes. Again, the thing is here with ArchMage, you will be one-tapping quite a lot of the enemies, and then with Nechronomancer, you've just got to go away, El Spammo it, and crucially not have to pay overly much attention to what you're actually doing. Once upon a time, you would have wiped with Nechronomancer, but they changed the mechanics up on it, so unless you're just using skill 2 all the time, every single press, you will be surviving with that class, although health vamp still would be the way around that. Okay, so this is how they turned out. We got 35 kills with Nechronomancer compared to 55 for ArchMage, and then the damage done 4,554 a second compared to 5,418 a second. So ArchMage, a clear winner there. Mode swapping isn't quite as imperative with those lower HP monsters, as the DPS you're taking just isn't as high, so generally you will be surviving the majority of the time no matter which mode you're in. However, let us move on to solo. Solo is a very, very interesting one because these classes, presuming of course you're using ArchMage in quite a generic way, you will be coming out with a similar kind of battle time. The important thing to note with Nechronomancer is as the battle goes on, you will get stronger. It does start quite slow and steady with the DPS, but your ability 4 will soon be nuking about 13 to 14k. Both classes provide a decent damage over time, that's presuming you're flipping between the two modes on your ArchMage. Now this is just purely for comparison purposes. Realistically, you're probably not going to be using either of these classes when you're soloing. Void High Lord, Chaos Avenger are always going to be your go-to kind of choices, or whatever solo class you may indeed use. Now let's load up the stats and have a little look. So 54 seconds for Nechronomancer, ArchMage 56 seconds to beat the boss. I would say on that it was probably about 55 for ArchMage. I was about a second late on clicking it, but there really isn't much between the two there, and on a different run it could have been the other way around. So folks, in a super quick summary, if you're farming low HP mobs, ArchMage is the way to go. Higher HP, stick on Nechronomancer just because it's far easier to use and you won't have to worry about wiping. Let me know down below if there's any classes you would like me to compare. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please do leave the video a like and of course subscribe, and I'll see you all again for another one incredibly soon. Until then, have a lovely day.